Welcome to the Earning Freedom Podcast and Success After Prison. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com and prisonprofessor.com. Really grateful for this opportunity to share some more information with the people that I'm trying to serve. And who are those people? Those are individuals who are living in struggle, individuals who are in jails or prisons across the country, whether they are locked up inside of a cage or that they're out here in society that may be struggling through some type of difficulty that feels like it's imprisoning their spirit. There is always a path through, and I want to share the lessons that Masterminds taught me to break through the 45-year sentence that I received when I was in my early 20s. A judge imposed it as a consequence of some bad decisions I made when I started making when I was 20 years old. And I went to prison, was locked up for 26 consecutive years, but I'm so grateful to masterminds like Socrates and Viktor Frankl and Nelson Mandela and other masterminds who inspired me and gave me the hope that I could break through. And it's my job to come back and try and share that hope with other individuals who are going through struggle. I do that through various courses that I offer and teach, but also through literature that I write or podcasts that I create or webinars that I offer. Today, I'm going to continue reading from my newest book, which is called Success After Prison. It's how I built assets worth $1 million within 2 years of release from 26 years inside, and more importantly, how you can succeed too. Now, this is the 24th episode in this series of Success After Prison. If you want to follow along, it's really simple. All of the early episodes are available for free on iTunes or on YouTube. My only request is that you will go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. It's free to do so. And rate and review the podcast so that it will get more distribution, so that more people can learn this message from Masterminds and hopefully find the strategy that will help them break through the difficulties that they're currently experiencing and position themselves for success on the other side. That's what this is all about, and I hope that you will help me be the change that I want to see in the world by spreading this message to more people. Now, if you don't want to go back and listen to all of the episodes, these 24 episodes, then, and I can understand why it would take you 6 hours to go through all of these tapes, because each one is about 20 minutes long, then very simple. Visit my website, either michaelsantos.com or prisonprofessor.com, and you will see a pop-up come up asking for your email. Enter your email, and a digital copy of this book will be sent to you immediately. You could also buy softcover books through the website or through Amazon.com. You could follow the work that we're doing on Facebook at the Earn Freedom public Facebook page, or through my Twitter handle at Michael G. Santos, or follow it on LinkedIn. I'm so determined to spread this message that I use every resource that I can, and I would encourage you to share it with as many people as you can. Especially if you have a loved one who's living in prison. There are far too many people locked up in our nation's prison system, and it's my job to make sure that they have every resource that I can offer that will help them navigate their way back to success. And one of the ways that we do that is I share how Masterminds taught me, how I applied those lessons to develop critical thinking skills that would allow me to overcome many of the obstacles that come with serving multiple decades in prison. I mean, without a doubt, there are obstacles. But the truth is that success after prison begins with the decisions that we make while we're in prison. And again, when I talk about prison, I'm talking about the challenges that we all face. All right? I've known many people outside who've gone through bankruptcy or have been divorced, or who have lost their job or suffered a financial reversal, and their mindset puts them in a type of prison that they don't quite know how to break through from. I think that the strategies that help me can help anyone, and that's why I feel so passionately about sharing this message. And today I'm going to continue the story about how I was going out into the marketplace looking for funding that would allow me to build this process. Now, I'd mentioned earlier in the last episode that I had some challenges. I thought it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to go out and raise the $3 million that I thought I would need, or anticipated I would need, to really build a world-class reentry program. I just thought I wasn't ready. I mean, I'd only been in society for a year and a half. I didn't have the track record, I didn't think, that was going to satisfy investors. So I had to look elsewhere. That's what this whole critical thinking aspect of the course is about. And I started looking at corporate sponsorship, and now I'm going to continue reading on page 119 of the book. To succeed in building the Straight A Guide program, I knew that I would need to find a different source of support. And so my Socratic questioning convinced me that I didn't have sufficient experience to accept responsibility for $3 million worth of investor money. But that didn't mean I would have to abandon the idea altogether. So instead of raising money necessary to hire a staff, lease office space, fund travel and marketing expenses, I decided to venture into the market and go and get more experience. That's your message as well. If you're facing challenges right now and there's not an easy outcome, just look at all of the different options that are available to you. That's what critical thinking skills will help you do. It'll help you develop that mindset that you can look around and figure out how to do things. And to validate the concept and build the business, I would need to continue efforts I'd been making since I concluded my prison term 8 months previously. Yet those efforts required me to spend money on airfare, on rental cars, on hotels, and I had to travel frequently. Further, I needed more resources to pay for services like web development and marketing. I wanted to attend trade shows, purchase a display booth, interact with administrators who would consider purchasing my products, maybe even hire former correctional professionals who would help me network and connect with people, because it's all about networking. And you hear me doing that at the beginning of every episode. And at the end of every episode, I'm trying to network. I'm asking people to join my Facebook page, like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, follow me on LinkedIn, because all of that broader network, it helps me overcome many of the difficulties and challenges that follow for somebody who's served multiple decades in prison. I just didn't have enough funding to launch all of the plans that I wanted to build. So I had to keep looking elsewhere. Because I felt passionately about inspiring people who lived in struggle to work toward reaching their highest potential. I wanted them to see that there was a path through, and I believed a market existed for me to deliver these kinds of products. But instead of asking for investors, I'd go out into the market sector, into the corporate sector, and I would ask for sponsors who would help me. But during my time in prison, I just became acquainted with many men who were successful and who were doing well in their business ventures, but for one reason or another, authorities charged them with crimes, juries or judges convicted them, and those business leaders went to prison. You're around people. If you're listening to this podcast, you're around influential people as well. It's the question is whether you are positioning yourself for those leaders to see you as something different. See, when I was confined in Lompoc, I built a friendship with leaders like Lee. He's the founder of a company that employed several hundred people and has done more than $1 billion in revenues. When I was confined in Taft, I built a friendship with Greg. He was the CEO of a publicly traded technology company worth billions of dollars. In fact, he was on the Forbes 400 list as being one of the youngest billionaires under 40 when he turned 40 years old. When I was in Atwater, I built a friendship with Tim, who founded several companies that generated hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues. If the message that I'm giving to you was only from one institution, well, then you could dismiss it as luck. But this path of networking, preparing myself for success, it began when I was in the United States Penitentiary, where I met people who came into my life, when I was in medium security prisons, when I was in low security prisons, and when I was in high security prisons. And I documented it all in this book, Earning Freedom, Conquering a 45-Year Prison Term. Everything I am telling you is 100% authentic, and I encourage you, review it, challenge it. If you have questions, reach out to me through an email or send it to your staff member if you're in a prison and ask them to respond, and I will. See, when I was together with those inside those prisons with those leaders, those men had an opportunity to assess my work ethic and my character. I didn't only consider them as some of my closest friends, but they were also business mentors for me. Although I lacked experience running businesses, they had documented records of extraordinary success that I will never hope to achieve. But I reached out to them when I was in this process, and I asked them for guidance. My hope was to find 10 different corporate sponsors. That was my initial goal, right? I'm not going to raise $3 million. Okay, I got to realize that it wouldn't be wise for me to invest a lot of time and resources and energy to go out into the marketplace and try and raise $3 million when I was going to have huge obstacles. But I thought I could find 10 corporate sponsors. and if each of them pledged $10,000 a year for 3 years, that would give me $100,000 a year. And I could use that $100,000 to fund expenses. That $100,000 would help me pay for those costs that I would incur as I went out and tried to connect with more people. And if I succeeded in raising that capital, I believe that I would find full-time, I could work full-time toward building a business while not being stressed out about paying travel costs and marketing expenses. And I could work with my partner, Justin, to do some other work to earn extra money, writing narratives for people who are going into prison to help them articulate their remorse, or working with individuals who are trying to position themselves to participate in programs that could result in their early release, like the residential drug abuse program, or working with lawyers who wanted to counsel their clients on how to prepare for a successful journey through prison. Whatever the case was, I'd figure out a way to work, but I needed to raise about $100,000 to build this vision I had of helping more people emerge successfully. And so by working on the new venture full-time for 3 years, then I anticipated I would gain more traction in the marketplace and more purchase orders would come through. And that would lead more people to use the program. And then the program would start growing organically through word of mouth and referrals. And in time, I believed that I could have a self-sustaining business. That was my vision when I made the next step of coming down to Newport Beach. So in the spring of 2013, hadn't quite finished my I wrote here 13 in the book, but it was actually the spring of 14. So I see I have a typo there. It was in the spring of 2014, I began my search for corporate sponsorship. And my first call was to Tim. Now, Tim was an entrepreneur with an extraordinary track record of building successful businesses that exceeded 10 million in annual revenues, many businesses. And I had incredible admiration for Tim because, he was a real leader. He was a business visionary. He employed hundreds of people and he provided their livelihood. And he started everything and he evaluated risk and reward. And I just wanted to talk with him and get some guidance. He's a guy that during his senior year in college, he launched his first venture. It went on to extraordinary success, launched numerous other ventures that went to success. And it's a shame that he got targeted by the criminal justice system. It was a shame for him, but it was an awesome opportunity for me because I got to meet him while he was serving a relatively light sentence of like 6 months or 9 months or something like that for an obstruction of justice charge. And so we got to be friends, and I wanted to reach out to him because I'd built a network, and I considered him not only a business mentor, but a friend. So I called him up and I said I wanted to come and talk to him about my idea. And so he invited me to come down to Newport where he kept his business. And I met with some of his team and him in the boardroom. And as I told him about my ambitions of helping more people who are in prison, preparing programs so that people in prison could come back successfully, he started to question me, just like any successful businessman would do. He said, why would people who operated prisons care anything about whether people came out successfully? I could have an answer for that. He said, what makes you think that they would buy products from you just because you got out of prison? He said, how long do you think it's going to take before you can start generating purchase orders? Yes, can you really build a business around these ideas? They were valid questions. Those were the kinds of questions that my avatar, wanted to know. And I had to be prepared to respond to those questions, to answer those questions. Fortunately, I was prepared. His questions prompted a lengthy discussion that we carried over as we went to lunch in a trendy restaurant down here in Irvine, Orange County, California. Now, the parking lot, is filled with Mercedes-Benzes, Porsches, Bentleys, Ferraris, these kind of cars that Tim drives. I didn't drive that kind of car, at least not at the time. And, toward the end of the meal, Tim made his point, suggesting that I look around at the others in this room. He says to me, what do you see here? Look around. What do you see here? And, the place where we were having lunch, it catered to a crowd that, that dressed well. They drove high-end cars. They didn't flinch at lunch tabs that probably ran for a couple $100 for a table of two. And I look around. I know I'm in an affluent place. And he says to me, look, the thing is, you and I know that there's a lot of problems with the prison system. And it's great that you want to change to improve it. You want to work to improve it. But the reality is, he says, no one in here really cares anything about the prison system or the people serving time inside, especially in places like this. And I told him, I said, look, I agree that these people don't care, but it's because they don't know. And I said, it's my job to try and change their perceptions, to try and help them see why this is the greatest social injustice of our time, and why we need to create programs that will help more people inside emerge successfully. And he looked and, he shrugged, he said, maybe you got to do that. He said, I guess you got to ask yourself a question. I said, well, what's the question? So he's also a Socratic questioner, I guess, and he says, I guess he has to ask this question. Do you want to change the world, or do you want to make some money? And I told him, I think I can do well on both. I'm never going to make $1 million doing this kind of stuff, but I think I can earn a good living and do what I'm passionate about, which is helping other people find what they're passionate about, helping other people overcome struggle, helping other people become successful. I feel that's what my calling is. I think I can do both. I think I can earn a good living, and I think I can do well. He says, maybe you can, maybe you can't. So, but if you got a lot of passion for this stuff about prisons that nobody else cares about, he said, do you think you can translate that into business? Because if you think you can translate that into business, I have an opportunity. You can work with my company. And, I didn't come down looking for a job, but it was interesting because, if I worked full time for him, I have a lot of energy. I'll work, 40 hours for him. And then if I earn enough resources, I can work the rest of the time for you, right? For people in struggle. I can create podcasts. I can create webinars. I can create other things. I can do things because I'll have my living expenses satisfied. And so, he told me, he said, look, the reality is I invest in people, and I know you work hard. Just keep plugging away. You might build something here. If you succeed, that'll be awesome. We'll carve it up in a fair way. If not, we'll look for new opportunities and build it together. So it was almost another opportunity like I had with Lee. But this time I'm not on probation. I'm not in the Bureau of Prisons. I've got more liberty, and he's going to pay me not $10 an hour, but he offers me a pretty meaningful wage. He says, I'll pay you $100,000 a year. So starting in the spring of 14, I start getting paid $100,000 a year to begin contributing to his company. But on the side, I start doing my work, which is this work, which is creating programs. And so what's the lesson here? Was I lucky? Was I lucky to find a deal like this? Without a doubt. But if I hadn't sown the seeds early on during my prison term, Tim would have never believed in me. As he said, he believes in people. As he said, he invested in people. He wouldn't invest in a person unless that person had made a massive investment in self first. What investment are you making in yourself today? What types of investment can you make in yourself right now that will influence how other people see you and whether they want to invest in your future? And there's a lot of ways that you can invest. You can invest in building your prison reputation. And if that's what you choose to do, well, just understand what comes with it. Just understand what comes with it. I know a lot of guys serving life, and I empathize with them. But I can always tell them one thing. You may be serving life right now, but you can sow some seeds that will bring a different outcome. And those seeds begin with the lessons that I'm trying to share with you, lessons that I got from masterminds. Understand what the people that your avatars, what the people you want to impress, understand what they expect of you. And those people are so many. It could be your warden. Your warden could have the discretion to override a management variable and send you from a penitentiary to a medium security prison. It could be a unit manager who could look at your character and override a complication that might surface in prison. It could be your future probation officer who gives you the authority to travel or to go into business for yourself. You see, you are sowing the seeds right now for the success that you're going to have in the future. And my message to you today is to learn from masterminds. Think about avatars. Create a plan. visualize that plan, visualize what you need to do to get from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. Create that plan that's going to help you get there, and then execute the plan every single day. And I know you can do it. If you're watching this video, I know you can do it. I know that there might be 100 people in that institution, and there might be 15 on this end that don't have the mental capacity to make it. There might be 15 on this end that are so ingrained in wanting to be part of the prison culture that they don't want to make it. But there's 70 people in the middle, and I know they can go either way. And my job is to connect with those 70 people and help them start thinking about success, thinking about the success that they can create. If you follow the path of masterminds, you can do it. I know because I did it. I was in there for 26 years, came out successfully, and that's what I want for every one of my brothers and sisters who are living in struggle. Whether you're in prison behind a wall or whether you're in some type of prison out here in society, you can make it. I'm Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com. I guess it's Michael with michaelsantos.com. Visit my website. Please follow me on the social media. Do what you can to support the work with just your comments. And like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, whatever the case is. Join my network. Let's be the change that we want to see in the world. Let's inspire more people in prison to emerge successfully. Thanks so much. I'll be back tomorrow with another inspiring episode, or an episode that I hope you find inspiring, of success after prison and earning freedom. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.